Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 9th episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast. Thanks for the support and listening to the 8th episode. It's become the most listened to show to date. I appreciate that. We talked to Matt Peterson about Rocket Pizza, and hopefully you guys have had a chance to get up there and check it out if you're in Wellston. All the reviews I've read and all the reviews I've heard, everybody seems to love it, so good for them. I hope it's a big success. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. The first few episodes, all the episodes of the show I've done up to this point, I've talked to peers, people close to my age, growing up in the same era and kind of knowing the same things, and kind of have that bond. We could talk, if things broke down in the interview, we could always go to things we grew up with. But today's episode, I'm talking to a former coach at Wellston High School. He was the head football coach when I was there, and everybody that I talk to holds this gentleman in great regards. I know my uncle, he coached my uncle back in the 70s. My uncle has nothing but great things to say about him. He told me that he always considered him like a second father figure in his life. So I know a lot of people really respect and really like this man, and it was a pleasure for me to have him on the show. I was a little bit nervous. I hadn't spoken to Coach Blackstone in probably 20 years, and even then it was, here or there, him trying to maybe get me to come out for the football team because I didn't play football in high school, and he had approached me a few times about playing, but whenever I reached out to him on Facebook, and he got back with me, said, hey, give me a call, gave him a call, and it was pretty funny. The first thing I said to him is, hey, Coach, it's Brent Ewing, and his response was, good. So I thought that was okay, off to a good start here, but he was nothing but polite, nothing but kind. We set up a date to talk, and he agreed to do it, and it was fun to sit down and talk to him for, I think we talked for about an hour and a half or so, and it was just fun. I'm anxious for you guys to hear some stories. Coach has got a new book out along with his brother Barry, called The Blackstone Brothers, The Life and Legacy of Two Coaches. Check it out on Amazon. I bought it when it came out, read it in a day or two. Super good read, just fun, really tells you a lot about the guy. And from all the stories you hear, I mean, that's him, man. It's really good. You can tell he's really family-oriented, loves his players, loves the students, loves the game. So hope you guys enjoy this episode, and give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. I thought about taking some questions from former players and things like that and asking Coach, but it just didn't work out this time. But if there's a good enough response and people want to do it, I would love to be able to have Coach back on just to maybe answer some questions that you guys may have. So anyway, think about that, and if you guys do have any questions for Coach, maybe hit me up and I'll reach back out to him and see if that would be something he'd be willing to do. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy my my episode with Coach Larry Blackstone.
Hello.
Coach, it's Brent Ewing. How are you?
Yeah. Hey, I just told my wife, I said, now, I'm going to be surprised if he didn't call right at 6 o'clock.
How about that? Am I right on time or what?
Yeah, I told her, I said, he just seems like I've been sitting there. I just looked at the time. It was like 5:59. I said, and now, just as soon as I said that, the phone rang. So, anyway, hey, what is, now tell me that, let me ask you stuff. How old are you right now?
Yes, sir. I'm 37. I will be 38 here in a few months.
37.
Yes.
Going on 38. Okay. Jessica's 39, her daughter. So I just told her, I think he's just about that age, which you are.
Yes, sir.
And what are you doing in Alaska?
I'm in Hawaii. I do physical.
Oh, you're in Hawaii. Yeah, that's what I'm at, Hawaii.
Yeah, I do.
Hawaii, yeah.
I do physical therapy. I work here at Maui Memorial Hospital, and I do inpatient therapy here, working on folks with
Physical therapy.
Yeah.
And you've been there how long?
Well, I do contract work. So what that means is I kind of go to a place for a few months at a time, and then I head out to somewhere different. But this is my third rotation here. I started in late 2016, and I stayed over for 9 months, went home for a while, came back for a year, went home for a while, and now I'm back again for at least 10 months. So it's a pretty good gig, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But you're not married.
No,
You can't be married, right?
exactly. Yeah, that allows me some freedom to be able to kind of continue, seeing the country and doing some things that I want to do, and
Yeah.
yeah.
It's time to change that thinking a little bit. But I'll talk to you about that later. Hey, now Wellston. Now your family still lives in Wellston?
Yes, sir. Mom and dad are still there. Actually, they live about a 2-minute walk from the football field right there, so we're pretty close to that Friday night action.
Wait a minute. You live there where the old high school was?
We live just across from the football field. If you go up that alley, that's across where the old track is right there. Just go straight up that alley. Yep, we're right there.
What street is that they live on?
That's South Michigan Avenue.
Yeah, I know where you're at. Yeah. Yep, got you.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Right.
That's isn't that where Alexander lived up in there someplace?
Yeah, he lived.
Mike Alexander.
Yeah, Reggie and Mike, and they lived at the other end of Michigan.
Right.
Yeah, they kind of lived down there.
Did. Yeah.
Yeah, good memory.
Hey, now that Alexander, though, I saw Mike at a football game. I went to Jackson Wilson game. I don't know if it was this year or last year. Anyway, I saw him, and boy, he looked like he was in bad shape.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't hardly recognize him.
Wow.
Reggie, I never have heard anything about him.
I haven't seen either of those guys for years.
Yeah. Well, Reggie married an older woman I know, and he had been on some kind of drugs or something. I don't know. Got into smoking and all that. But married a woman with some kids, and I don't know whatever happened. Yeah. Whether that's still working out or not, who knows?
Right.
But anyway. Right. And now you're doing what with me? What's this all about?
Well, basically what I do is it's called a podcast, so I just kind of get interesting people on and just interview them, just talk to them, have them to tell me a little bit about themselves. I try to keep it kind of local to the stuff in Wellston, just so people back there kind of get a sense of what people are up to these days. And I know, talking to a lot of my former classmates and things, everybody has a pretty high respect for you. So I know they would enjoy hearing, what you're up to these days, hearing some stuff about the past, maybe some stories about some Wellston football, things like that.
Who's your former classmates?
Former classmates, probably as far as athletes go, my two best friends in school were Bub Dunn and Jake Eberts. Those were the guys.
Jake Eberts. Who was the other one? Eberts and who?
His name we called him Bub, but his name was Shane Dunn. I don't know.
Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah. He was a golfer, a baseball player. I think he played football a year or two as well.
Yeah. I know Eberts. I know Jake. Now he's a nurse or something too, isn't he?
He actually does the same thing I do. He works in physical therapy.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Kind of went down that same path together.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen him a time or two or something. I don't know when, but that has been him for a while.
Yeah.
But I remember he was, I thought, a nurse or a physical therapy or something.
Yeah, myself as well.
Now, who were your...
Go ahead.
Yeah. You played basketball.
I was a baseball player and a basketball player. Baseball was kind of my first... Baseball was my first sport, but played basketball as well. I was just... As when we talked briefly, a couple weeks ago, I was just that scared little kid to play football for that intimidating football coach we had at the time.
you were a little soft there too. Hey, now, how tall are you?
How tall? I'm about 5'10".
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I remember you. I do. I remember you. You something about boxing or something, wasn't it?
Well, I think maybe. My uncle always, you guys always talked, Wes Perry, I think I told you that was my uncle.
Oh my God, yes, I forgot about that.
Right? So I think that's maybe how you remember that name, because he was always trying to get me to play football as well, and I know, I remember you stopping me a few times in the hallway and asking me about playing, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little intimidated. I was a little back then. I was like, man, I didn't know you. Heck, I didn't grow up with you. You weren't there.
I can believe that.
You weren't there while I was
trying to intimidate people.
Well, it worked.
Yeah.
I'm a little.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little intimidated right now, to be honest with you. But
I doubt that. Hey, I saw a picture of you too. You still got a beard?
well, I trimmed it a little bit. I usually don't have a beard.
Yeah.
That's not my scene. But
Well, trim it a little bit more. Yeah, trim it some more. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna.
Keep trimming it.
I think I'm gonna take it off. That's what my mom says too. She's like, "Oh man, get rid of that thing."
Yeah. I would say your mom's probably right. Yeah, she'd probably be prouder of you.
Well,
I'm sure she's proud of you anyway, but.
They do that No Shave November thing, and it's kind of to bring awareness.
I know that.
Yeah, they bring.
It's a Wellston thing.
No, it's over here too. It's kind of to bring awareness to cancer, cancer survivors and cancer research and things like that. So I kind of let it go for November. But now that December's in, I'm like, yeah, I think it's probably time to get that off the face there.
Yeah. I saw a picture of you someplace. It might have been on Facebook. And, beard, I thought, hey, I'm going to say something about that. Yeah. I still tell all these guys, even when I see them, what I think's going on, how they should live and all that. Some are a little receptive. Most of them just let it go right through.
Right.
Don't react too much. That's fine. But I'd always like to let them know I still care about them and,
Absolutely. And
care how they're looking and acting and all that stuff.
Absolutely, and I think that's that's one key of a good coach, man. You especially reading, after reading your book, and we'll talk about your book in a little bit, but after reading that, I can tell how much you still care for all your former players and how much they care for you. So that's really a cool thing to hear.
Good. Okay, let's get line her up there.
Get her going. Well, first of all, how was Thanksgiving? Did you guys have a good Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah. We only had the one daughter. She's got two kids, and they're young. They're 9 and 6.
Okay.
I got married late. She got married late, and but she's got two good kids, a good husband, good father, husband. So that's why we moved down here, really, because Debbie was a teacher at Amanda. Her last 15 or 20 years, and I was at Lancaster too teaching after I left Boston. And anyway, she got married to a guy down here towards Cincinnati, and ended up living there. So hey, that's where we live too. So now his parents live here. So Thanksgiving and Easter, we always go to his parents' house, and it's more his family than ours, but that's where we end up anyway. So it's always good.
Very good, very cool. Now you said you got married late. How old were you when you got married?
30.
Oh, so I'm really I'm really late then.
Yeah, we need. That's what I'm saying. We need to maybe talk to you about that sometime.
That would take a whole therapy session to get to me.
Well, I'm sure you're thinking about it. You'd be a good catch for someone out there. You know that. So I don't know if they'd want to live in Boston and move to Hawaii every 9 months today. That's not going to last forever, I wouldn't think.
No, I'm doing it while I can. I really enjoy the traveling. I'm just not sure where I want to settle down yet. That's one thing my folks, I'm an only child, so wherever I end up, I want my folks to end up because we're really close. So, sometimes I think they're ready to make a move, but they're just not sure. They don't want to pack up and not know where I'm going. So I'm kind of almost holding them hostage,
I do. I understand that completely. See, Jessica was married, moved down here, and we moved 6 miles from her. And I guess if she moves again, I guess her husband's always looking at different things, but try to nip that in the bud. I don't feel like moving again. Really, we moved down here and we didn't know anybody.
Right.
We'd lived in Lancaster there for 20 years, so. And that's where I was from. So, we just packed up and moved down here. So I'm glad we did.
Sure.
Worked out good. But, and wife was from West Virginia. So, anyway, yeah, we'll get you settled in here someday soon, I can tell you.
Right. Well, let's go into a little bit about your past. I read the book, so I'm kind of familiar with everything, but kind of give me a little bit. Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college? Just to let our listeners kind of know. Give us a little bit of that.
No, I went to Liberty Union High School. I was in Fairfield County, near Lancaster. Well, it's near Lancaster, a little bit south of Columbus. For those that might not know, but went there to high school. My dad was a farmer, dairy farmer, so we lived on the farm, and at that time we played all the I have a twin brother, so we played, basketball, football, whatever season was in, that's what we played, and we had fairly good success there. So ended up going to Fairmont State College in West Virginia. It was a Division II school, and got there just about the right time. Had a good team going on, and in fact, the 4 years we were there, we were 9-1, 9-1, 9-1, and then 12-0 our senior year won the national championship.
Wow!
So we've been pretty fortunate getting where there were a pretty good program going on at the time, and good coaching and good players, and in high school too, we were 9-1 all 4 years we were in high school.
Really?
So we haven't. Yeah, we were part of a winning football team. And of course, the baseball team, Liberty Union, had won a couple state championships while we were in school. And basketball, we were teams we were on all pretty good. We weren't always the best players on the team, but we were part of the team anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I didn't realize, I don't think I'd ever heard that you had a twin brother until I read the book. And some of the funniest things was when he would get confused for you, and one of you were coaching, and the other would be at the concession stand buying a hot dog. And those stories were cracking me up in that book, man. So funny.
Yeah, Larry and Barry.
Right.
Yeah, I went to one of his games one time, and the mother of one of the players said, "What do you do?" I was getting something, to eat, and she questioned what I was doing. Not, in the locker room or on the sideline, something with the team. And I quite knew what she was thinking, so I let her go for a little bit, and then told her, I said, "Hey, I'm Barry's brother." So she couldn't hardly believe it. We were actually younger years, identical.
Yeah.
And still fairly similar, but even in looks. But and he was a teacher and a coach the entire time too. We both coached 50 years.
Wow.
And that's why we wrote the book, and you read that, so you pretty well know what's going on.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely want to plug that. What made you decide to write that book? Is that something that you guys thought about for a while, or kind of now that you're kind of both?
No.
Go ahead.
Not really. Hey, but kids all during the years, they'd all say, "You ought to write a book."
Mm-hmm.
And he was hearing a lot of the same things. Our personalities are pretty similar, so not always easy to get used to, but especially our humor. We think we're kind of funny, but most people don't. So anyway, he coached 50 years, had good schools, had good players, good success. And I coached 50, and he normally was coaching teams that were, winning and all that. My deal was, a lot of times the jobs I had were trying to rebuild a program, like even at Wellston.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't been winning very much, and I was at Jackson too. So when I was there, they had been on a 19-game losing streak, and we went in there. It took a while, but we got things going pretty good and did the same thing at Wellston.
Absolutely. I know you had a lot. My 4 years of school, there was a lot of really, really good talent there at Wellston, with especially the running back groups with Nayland Arthur and Sean Brennan and Brad Young and Chris Hutchinson. And they were just a really solid athletes.
Hey, Wellston and Jackson both, and before or since that time, they've continued to have good teams and good programs for the most part. And but right when I got there at Wellston, they'd lost 20 games in a row, I think, hadn't won much. But like you're saying, they had good players. I don't know what the issue was. But, we had the Brennans,
mm-hmm.
and we had the Brad Young and Chris Hutchison, and, just Troy Sturt and Kyle, and, I could name, we had really good players. We had them when I got there. We had them when I left there. And they've, of course, this year they were in the playoffs again. So, Wellston's always had good players. Had the same thing in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But they were winning in basketball, and they were winning in baseball. Darrow, the basketball guy, and and the baseball coach. They were both winning, and they're still winning.
Mm-hmm.
So, good. They've got great. Well, you're one of them. You got great kids in Wellston. Always have had.
Yeah, and they've the programs. I don't know too much about the basketball program right now, but I know the baseball program. Morgan Stevens had taken that over and coached there for a few years, and Morgan was a really good friend of mine growing up and a classmate. He graduated a year ahead of me, but to have him at the helm of the baseball program was there was nobody more perfect than Morgan to be there. The way he just knew how to do things the right way. He knew how to get the respect from the kids. But I know last year was his last year. He kind of stepped away so he could spend more time with his kids because he's not getting to see them, play their sports and things like that. So, good for him. I think
Morgan was one of my guys.
Yeah,
he played for me.
I remember.
I know all about Morgan Stevens. In fact, when I was there and he had graduated, he helped coach our 7th grade football team.
That's right.
7th or 8th grade. I'm not sure which one, but he was born to be a coach. Should have been a teacher. I don't know if he is or not, but he should have been a teacher and a coach. Mm-hmm. And he had a passion for the game and for the kids.
Absolutely.
So I didn't realize he was a baseball coach there, but if he left, that's not good. He should have stayed.
Yeah, I think he was there maybe 5 or 6 years, and then maybe longer than that. I'm not sure. I think Chris Graham, Snoop Graham, took over. Chris has also helped with the football team at times. I think he coached basketball there at times too. And he's a really good guy. He really knows what he's doing. Really, kind of like you said, kind of born to be a coach. Kind of has that mentality.
Yeah.
Really good with the kids. Really, really good dude. And will teach the right way. Doesn't go out there and have to.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have to throw out the 4-letter words. Doesn't have to get up into kids' faces.
No.
And that's one thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Reading your book again, just my respect level for, obviously, again, we don't know each other very well, but the respect level went up when I saw how you treated kids and how you were like, man, you didn't need to slip those 4-letter words in there. You didn't need to cuss at the kids. You just had to, treat them the right way and coach them the right way.
I didn't cuss, but and not just at football practice, not in the house, not ever. But I did some yelling, and Morgan Stevens, I yelled at him a lot. I always enjoyed yelling at him. He always seemed to be a little sensitive about that, so kind of got him mad and made him a better football player.
There you go.
And of course, and then a lot of them kids there. I mean, we had some talent, like you're saying. And when I went there, I mean, they had the same kind of talent. I don't know what was going on, but I'm telling you, Wellston's always had. I mean, great kids. I loved coaching at Wellston. Mm-hmm. Always, I mean, that's the place. I mean, my wife, I never got to move there. So my wife wasn't there. So that ended up getting back home. But, I had a great time at Wellston.
Now, you spent a couple different stints at Wellston, right? One as an assistant coach in the 70s, and then what were your years there?
73, I was there because my high school coach, that was Jody Michael, who was a Jackson guy, Michael's Ice Cream Shop.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of them brothers. I think there were 6 brothers or something, a sister that owned that, and he was one of them. But he was a coach. He was my high school coach, and ended up coaching in West Virginia. And then I was down coaching and went to school in West Virginia, ended up coaching down there close to him. Then he moved back to Wellston, and when he did, he called and wanted me to come, with him. So in 1973, I was at Wellston. And we had another good group of kids there, the Keith Hendrys and Dickie Gillum, and the real estate person, or banker, what was that name? Chip Lockard.
Okay.
Lockard. All them guys. Great. Hey, I mean, really good guys. Same kind of guys. So, Jody was the head coach. I was his assistant.
Okay. And then you came back around as the head coach in the mid-90s. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, it was the mid-90s, late 90s, I think. I don't know for sure what year it was. I just thought about that today, in fact. I think it was like 98, 97, 98, 99, something in that range. Okay. And, I came back here as the head coach, and had the same kind of success, or I don't know. Wellston's a good place. I still have some good friends there I keep in touch with. Murdoch's.
Mm-hmm.
We had Matt and Brian Murdoch, and his dad, of course, was running the side. Not what was it called, the Boosters or something there. And then, of course, Alan and Jack Arthur,
Mm-hmm.
or Jack Huffman and Alan Arthur. That family helped me a lot. In fact, it helped the school and everybody a lot, I think. But anyway, there's a lot of good people. And then, of course, your cousin or something, Wes Perry,
Mm-hmm.
he was in that 73 team. Wes Perry, Denny Pierce,
Uh-huh.
Mike, there was a McCarthy boy, and Jody was the head coach. We had a good team. Well, again, the program had been down. He came in there and we started winning some games. So had good fun there, too.
It's funny, whenever anybody talks about my Uncle Wes, my Uncle Gib, they always mention Denny Pierce as well. It's like they were a 1-2 punch, or they kind of come as a package.
Yeah, they were always hanging around. The other one was taller than the other one. Denny was tall, and Wes was a little shorter, but same kind of guys, kind of quiet, laid back, just good young kids at the time. Of course, now how old would they be? I don't know. They're 60 years old, I say.
Yeah, Gibbs. I think Gib is, my mom's 64. I think Gib is 62, 61 or 62. Yeah.
Sounds right. Yeah, that was all a good bunch of kids. That's where we had Chip Lockard in that bunch too. So, and his dad and mom were, business people there in Wellston, and I think they both have passed away now. But yeah, I've never forgot that bunch.
Right, and you mentioned Jack Huffman and Alan Arthur, man, and those guys have been really big supporters of mine throughout high school, and even to this day. Unfortunately, Alan's passed away, but Jack,
right.
Every time my dad or my mom runs into Jack or Bonnie, they always ask about me, and I really appreciate that. That kind of, it's nice to know you made an impression on somebody, from so long ago, from school and things like that. So they're really good people for that town.
They're special people, and in fact, Alan Arthur married Jody Michael's wife. He died, and then when he remarried, Alan did, and Joanne Michael, he got married here. They've both passed away now, but that was kind of a neat thing too, because I knew Alan from there, and of course, Joanne Michael was, my high school coach's wife at the time, so that was all good stuff.
Right. One thing I remember when you were there was the emphasis on getting into the gym, and that's one thing at the time. I never lifted weights in high school. I was kind of the scrawny kid, and I was always kind of, at that time, not gonna lie, I was kind of that guy who was, oh man, I'm not as strong as these other guys. I'm gonna go in there and make a fool of myself. So I never got into it, but I remember you pressing that, and then reading the book, I was like, man, that started a long time ago, huh? You really started emphasizing that back in the 70s, and it's cool to see. And now that I'm a little bit older and I'm finally getting into the gym more, and it's like, yeah, I get it. I wish I would have done this 25 years ago,
Yeah. You should have played football, too. But, hey, listen, when we were in college, weightlifting, and when we were in high school, we never had a weight program. No one did. But when we went to college, we were at Fairmont State College. We had a young coach there that had come from Florida and started a weight program. So at Fairmont College, we had maybe one of the first weight programs in a college in the country, I would say.
Oh, wow.
So that's when it started, 1965. And we dominated our conference. We were like 40-3 over a 4-year period.
Wow.
I mean, we completely dominated because of the strength. And at the time, it wasn't real popular. They kept talking about muscle boundness and all that kind of stuff. So, but when I, got into coaching myself, I did the same thing that I'd learned from, our coaches there. We had a weight program. And we were at Wellston. That was a big thing. It's been a big thing for my brother and I both. No matter where we were, we worked really hard in the weight room. Now it's almost mandatory.
Right.
But we started when it wasn't, and people didn't like it. Like the basketball coach didn't like it, the baseball coach didn't like it, because they thought it was not good for their kind of athletes. But now, of course, you know how it is now. Baseball, golf, tennis, women, men, they're all in the weight room. They're all in some kind of a weight program.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. I think
we've seen that. We've seen that over the 50 years from where there's a lot of questions about, whether you should do it. And now there's no question about it.
Exactly. I think back then maybe it had that stigma of you just thought people went there to get bigger. It's like, no, man, you go in there, you gain flexibility, you gain proprioception, you gain all this different stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, you want to put on some muscle mass, whatever, but you also want to get faster. You want to get, you want to get stronger in your certain sport. So yeah, everybody, like you said, everybody's doing it now. Heck, swimming,
right.
golf, tennis, all these guys are in the gym.
I thought it was a bodybuilding type thing.
Exactly.
And our philosophy was to take a football player and make him stronger. We weren't trying to take a bodybuilder and make him a football player. So it was all about strength and speed and flexibility and all of that. And we learned that in college and have used it, for 50 years. But now, it's even gone beyond what we did. So, hey, now they're doing all kind of training, players have their own trainer and all that kind of stuff. So,
right.
Anyways, it's been fun to see that because some of those people that question what we were doing 50 years ago, I don't know what they're thinking now. Hey, maybe they're like you. You've learned, hey, that it's something really good, not just for sports, but for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was in. I got the opportunity to go to Michigan's weight room about 8 or 9 years ago up in Ann Arbor, and oh my gosh, it's like it's unbelievable. I mean just millions and millions and millions of dollars poured into that weight room, and how everything's just strategically set up, and how many hours these guys are spending in there. Like, wow, this is a huge deal.
Let me tell you this too, Brent, that baseball, they're big into it too. I'm down here in Cincinnati, so we're Reds fans, and they haven't had a lot of success lately, but they've got good players, and they spent $3 million last year on their weight equipment.
Really?
Yeah. So they have a room that you would. It may not be like Michigan's football weight room, but hey, baseball, basketball. My son-in-law has a basketball player that just got drafted in the NBA. His name's Darius Baisley. He didn't go to college. He's the first guy not to go to college and the first-round draft pick this past year in the NBA.
Wow.
Plays for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay.
And when you see the pro game, if you see the Thunder play, Darius Baisley, number 7. And Ryan, my son-in-law, tried to get him in the weight room and all that. And he was a little resistant. He's 6'8", weighed about 190 pounds. And he needed to get bigger and stronger. Well, now he weighs 210 pounds. And, his first-round draft pick. And he knows that to play in that league, he better get a little bit thicker and bigger and stronger.
Man, no doubt. Those guys there, it's just, you see some of these guys who are, 7 foot, 265 pounds, just muscling you down low. It's like you got to put some weight on, dude. You're 190 pounds. You're going to get pushed around pretty easily.
No, you're not going to get her done. So, anyway, now he's motivated to do it, too, because he's, getting paid to play and all that kind of stuff, too. So, and, they think maybe the NBA coaches knows more than his high school coach, but actually his high school coach knew what, he's the guy that got him started on all this.
Right.
So, that's good stuff.
Very cool. Shifting focus for a minute, another thing about that I read in the book that I thought was cool is just the emphasis on family, and how much, even growing up, your parents, how much that family bond you and your brother and everybody had. Talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about your folks. I know you said, your dad was a farmer, and I remember reading the stories in the book of you and your brother kind of, getting strong on the farm, lifting the hay bales and things like that. But as far as that family dynamic and keeping that going, even outside of sports, like, how important is that to you?
Yeah, well, it's most important, really. Dad and Mom, I also said in that book, when we were growing up, our father and mother, they were good parents, good fathers, good mothers, and all that. And they were farmers. I mean, they worked. Dad got up every morning at 3:00, milked 100 cows, and made milk the same cows 4:00 at night.
Wow.
I mean, that was his life. It was 365 days a year, and that's how we lived, and that's how we coach football every day, every night, that's how we've lived ever since. We work out. I still work out every morning at 5:00. I go down to the gym.
Wow.
I can't bench 400 anymore, but hey, I'm still down there. I'm still trying to do something. It all started back when, we were well grown up, and we'd bale hay or whatever, we ate 3 meals a day together.
Mm-hmm.
Went to church, always and then had a chicken for lunch at, Dad would just cut the head off of a chicken, Mom would fix it up. That's what it was every Sunday. We went to my grandparents on my dad's side every Friday night. Went to my grandparents on my mother's side every Sunday. It was all about family. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, today it's not all about family. It's about friends and the technology and all that kind of stuff. We hadn't, we didn't have a bathroom growing up, an inside bathroom.
Wow. And
I tell my daughter that, or my grandson, well, they can't believe it.
Right.
In fact, we have a Jeep from my wife's father, and it doesn't have the power windows, and I take him right. It's a 1990. Uh-huh. And he said, "How do I roll this window down?" I said, "You see that little crank? You turn that, and it rolls the window down." Hey, things have changed a lot in a lot of ways, but my brother and I in coaching, it really did change for us over the 50 years. We treated every kid. I hope we did. Anyway, we tried to, just like they were, our own. Mm-hmm. And we still do because of the technology. Now it's Facebook and texting and all that, cell phones. We've stayed in touch with a lot of them, and a lot of them are from Boston. I keep trying to get hold of Brad Young. He won't call me back, but I talked to Chris Hutchison, the Stewart boys, and them guys. Tell Morgan Stevens he needs to call me too. But it's still a family, thing, and that it was all growing up on that farm. Mm-hmm. And Dad and Mom going to every game, never saying a word to the coaches or anything like that, or the teacher. That was in the days when, if you got in trouble at school, you got paddled.
Right.
And when you got home, you got paddled again. Them days are all over, of course. But there were some good things. Some things have changed and they're better, probably, I'm sure. But there were some things that were really good in our day growing up. So, and learning to work 365 days a year was probably one of the best things we learned.
Right. I think now people just expect, well, I put in a little work, I expect a lot in return. It's like, no, you got to put in a lot of work to get sometimes a little in return. It doesn't just come easy, man.
Well, one thing, Brent, that I wanted to and didn't put in that book is we were taught to serve. Mm-hmm. And today, kids are taught to deserve. And we were taught to serve and to honor our teachers and respect and all that. Now, today, they're taught to deserve and are entitled. Now, not all of them. Some of them are still the old school. Mm-hmm. But there's a little bit of that going on where the kids are, because you pay to play nowadays, hey, I'm paying, so I deserve, I'm entitled to play. That kind of stuff. So in our day, hey, you weren't entitled to anything.
Sure.
You were there to serve the school, the coaches, the parents, and all that, and it was an honor to do it. And, and we always tried to teach that same thing. So, and we always tried to teach, I'm talking my brother and I both, hey, like you're on my team, hey, you're really not entitled to anything, no matter, your father, who he is, or anything. It was just, hey, we treat them all the same. Now, some people like that in the past 50 years, and some haven't liked it too well, but that's okay too.
I think that's what makes the successful coaches successful. You see guys like Greg Popovich in the NBA or Bill Belichick. It's like I don't care if you're a star or not. You're going to get chewed out if you do wrong, or you're going to get chewed out if you do wrong. Like everybody's going to be treated exactly the same. You might be better than this guy, but I'm not going to tell you that. You're going to have to go out there and show it.
Yep. Yeah. You named two guys that have had long tenure, long success, records, and they've not changed a whole lot. And that's just the way it is. And that's in our day, in my day, really, there was more of that going on. I don't know how to explain that, but it just, things have changed over the 50 years, no question about it.
I think with those two coaches, the only thing I would like to see a little bit more of as a fan is have fun. Maybe you are having fun, but express that a little bit. You're allowed to crack a smile or crack a joke or give a compliment. Right. But these guys kind of keep that stoic nature all the time. But then you hear behind the scenes, oh, they're great guys. Well, let me see that. Let the fans see that.
You see him on the tube there on the TV, and it's pretty much a business atmosphere there.
Right.
But Barry and I went down to see Nick Saban this past year, and we spent 2 days with him. And you saw he endorsed our book.
Correct.
And now when you see him on TV and all that, when we saw him down in Tuscaloosa, he was like cracking jokes. He was funny. He was. And he treated us like we were, and we knew him because he's actually from Fairmont, West Virginia.
Right.
And his father and my college coach were buddies.
Okay.
So Nick Saban came to our championship game that we played in Morgantown, West Virginia. And the first thing he said to me and my brother, he said, "I saw your last football game you played in college."
Wow.
So he was at the game.
How cool is that?
So we knew him, and that, it was cool. But you don't see that out of him. On the TV at a game, but he's a really good guy. I'm more of an Alabama fan now than I've ever been because of those 2 days we spent with him this past summer.
See, that's good to hear. Like you say, we get a perception, correct or incorrect,
right?
But it's what they exude on television that it's like, man, just when you're doing an interview, don't be short with the interviewer. Don't be condescending to the interviewer. They're doing their job too, just like you are. Have some respect. Be polite. Be nice. I get that you're in the heat of the moment, but when it boils down to the big picture of life, man, you're still coaching a game. Be respectful.
Yeah.
Like, let us know you're having fun. Tom Izzo's the same way in basketball. It's like, is Izzo ever having fun? Is Krzyzewski ever having fun? And these guys are super successful, but they never smile.
I know, but they're having fun. Believe me, maybe not at the moment.
Right.
When the camera's on them, time out or something. But they're having fun, and they're good. And all them guys you're naming I know enough about them that they're all really good people. They're good fathers. They're good husbands, and they are having fun. Hey, let me tell you one thing more about Nick Saban.
Sure.
That he had a teammate in high school. His name was Terry Mulberry, and he was a great player. He played at West Virginia and was a better football player than Nick Saban. But he got cancer later in his life. He still lived in the Fairmont area, and Nick Saban flew him down to Tuscaloosa to see the top doctors in Alabama, and paid for everything, paid for the hospital, paid for everything.
Wow.
And more than once. He had cancer, and it was back and forth, I don't know how many times, but Nick Saban took care of this teammate of his from high school.
Wow.
Because he could, and that's the kind of guy he is, which you never see that on, on TV on the sideline when it's 4th and 1. That's a different deal, but he's a really good guy, and then the other guys you've named, I'm pretty sure are the same.
Well, that's cool to hear. I appreciate you telling me that story because I've always been one of those guys to be like, man, Alabama's a great team, but man, that coach, I just can't get behind him. But once you start hearing stories like that, and you really get to know, man, this is kind of a persona that they have, as a coach. Outside of that, totally different. So that's a good thing to hear.
Like me too. Hey, some people I wasn't very nice, but I'm a pretty nice guy, really. If there's any listeners in Wilson are thinking, hey, this guy wasn't no nice. Well, I really am, but not in the weight room so much, not on the field, but off the field and all that. I think I'm a good father, good husband, and grandfather now. So and I still like them guys that I had.
Right, and it's good to, again, we hadn't spoken I don't think we had ever spoken more than 10 words up until a couple weeks ago. So it's kind of good to. I was a little nervous, not gonna lie, a little nervous calling because I was like, are we gonna have anything to talk about? But it's kind of.
Yeah, let me tell you something too. Hey, I know you better than you knew me, evidently.
I think so.
'Cause I remember you, and I guarantee I remembered you pretty well, even though you weren't a football player. You should have been, but you weren't. So, but yeah, I know who you were. When I see your name on Facebook or anything, I know exactly who you were. I didn't realize you were in Hawaii, but hey,
it was so. When I called you a couple weeks ago, and I cracked up. I even told my parents, after we had talked, and when you said, "I remember you," I don't know why, because you never did nothing for me. I lost it. I just thought that was hilarious, and I think that's that dry sense of humor where you said, "I think I'm funny." I think that's hilarious. That sense of humor, it tickles me. And the first.
That's why these former players have all said, you guys, Barry has, I think, the same thing. But, hey, you guys ought to write a book. I wish one thing we had written down all the stuff that we wrote a book, and we could write another one right now because we left a whole lot of stuff out of this one.
Oh, I bet.
We're thinking something new every day. So, in 50 years with how many kids we've had in different places and all that, hey, we've got all kind of stories, and they're fun now. They're funny to us. They were funny then. So it's been a good deal. So yeah, but I know exactly who you are, and knew the name Wellston. No question in my mind about that. So yeah. Well, but yeah, I probably did intimidate you a little bit when I said, "Hey, you ought to be playing football."
You did,
You're probably 150 pounds or 40 pounds.
Probably about 140. And I knew I was going to play baseball in college, and that kind of was my thing. And I was like, man, I don't want to go out there and get hurt. I already played, I play basketball. Those are kind of my things. But looking back, like you said, I wish I would have at least came out a year, tried it out.
Yep.
Because I'm sure if I came out 1 year, I would have stuck it out. Because those guys, I grew up with all of them. I really still to this day have friendships with a lot of them. Yeah, I would have loved to have. I'd love to have seen what I could have done, but that's 20 years ago now. Unfortunately, you can't.
I probably told you in this conversation in high school, hey, you should play, and if you don't, someday you're gonna regret it.
You probably did. Yeah, you probably did.
I bet I said that. Yeah, I've said it before to different people, and every time, 10 years, 20, whatever years later, they said, hey, I should have played. Well, hey, you didn't. So,
it's funny because I remember in school when my uncle actually had a key. I think you had given Wes a key to the weight room. And he invited me. He invited me over a few times, and I remember there would be times I would see you in the hallway, and I'd like, oh man, what do I do? I kind of do I look down? Do I duck away? I was like, I don't want because he's gonna ask me to come and lift weights, and I don't want to, but I don't want confrontation. I'm not back then I wasn't a huge confrontation type of kid. So, but yeah, man, I looking back, I wish I would have did it for sure. And we went over there for basketball a few times, but it was never something that stuck. We didn't have a good weight program. We didn't really do anything for baseball as far as weight wise. But yeah, nowadays, like you said earlier, it's a must. You got to get in there. You got to get some work in.
Changed.
Absolutely.
You can't tell a baseball coach from a football coach nowadays.
Right.
They're all on the same mindset.
Very true. Very true.
And we see them baseball players at home plate, the way they're built. Now, see, I have a younger brother. His name is Richard. He was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, wow.
In 1970.
Oh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He played 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years, I guess, with the benches and the Perez's and all that in the minor leagues.
Uh-huh.
They were at Three Rivers in Canada. That was their AAA team at the time.
Okay.
So he moved up there with all them guys. So, but when they all moved up to the Reds, he didn't get called up. So he never heard about him. But he was right there on the right on the borderline.
No kidding. So you guys, your parents did well with the gene pool, man. You guys all three sound like you were pretty good athletes.
My dad played for he played baseball too. Now that you mention this, I'll tell you, hey, baseball was our sport.
Uh-huh.
Dad played for Detroit. And I wrote in that book, if you looked at it, they kept telling me growing up, your relation to Bob Shockey.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, Bob Shockey pitched for the Yankees and was manager of the Yankees when Babe Ruth was there at the 60 home runs in 1927. Well, Bob Shockey is relation of mine, distant, but they kept telling us, you're related to Bob Shockey, and at that time we knew who he was. But we met him one time. He was on the farm there. Came out one time. He was 90 years old when we saw him. Him and his wife were both in their 90s, and he died shortly after that. But we got to meet him one time.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Some pretty good lineage there. And reading in the book, you had went to play for the Raiders there as well. I didn't know that until I read it in the book, right?
Yeah. Got after Fairmont, we won the national championship, and when you win a championship, normally, somebody gets drafted. Well, I was the guy that got drafted. I was the only guy in our league, in fact, that got drafted.
Wow.
So, that was in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a long time ago, wasn't it?
Quite a few years now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How was that How was that getting out there? How was that when you packed up?
Well, I went out there. I went out there for 3 months. Got drafted in the Army. Got drafted twice that year.
Huh.
So wasn't able to stay at Oakland. But anyway, I was there. I had actually made the team. Preseason, all that was over. The season had started, and my dad called and said, "Hey, you got to be at Fort Hays tomorrow, or a couple of days there." It was on I don't know. I went in and saw Al Davis, who at that time was the GM, and you won't believe this, but I had to go to the airport and had to fly home for their physical for the Army. But John Madden took me to the airport.
Wow, how cool
Now,
is that?
at that time, John Madden was just like the lowest man on the coaching staff. He was the outside linebacker coach, and they told him, "Hey, take this guy to the airport." So I rode across the Golden Gate Bridge in a Dodge Charger with John Madden.
Wow, how cool a story is that? What went through your mind? What were the thoughts when your dad called and said, "Hey, man, you got to be at you got drafted. Here's what's got to happen."
Well, it was during the Vietnam War, of course, so you didn't have a whole lot of choice.
Right.
So and it was on that lottery thing where we all had a number. Barry, my brother, he never got called. Never had to take his fist or anything. It wasn't like a lot of people wanting to go to Vietnam at the time.
Right.
Just make a career out of the service, but in a war, and then people weren't quite as interested in going. So anyway, that was the deal. But I was the only Raider, the only NFL guy that got called in. So hey, there were some others you've never heard of that got the same deal.
Sure, man. What might have been, huh? Some of those names could have been the next big thing.
Don't know.
Crazy how life works like
We're
that.
We're not complaining about anything, I can tell you.
Well, that's good, man. I don't think you're one to complain by just talking to you. These 45, 50 minutes and reading that book and hearing, again, the rapport you have with ex players and ex coaches. It's always been super positive. I've never heard. I can't remember ever hearing a negative word about you, even as a student, maybe being a little hard on the people in the weight room or things like that. I can't even remember if that happened, but I've always heard.
I've heard it. I've heard it. And let me tell you this: I went to the Bengal game. When you've coached long enough, you've got a lot of different players on it. But anyway, I went to the Bengal game this past Sunday. They played the Jets. Well, I had a kid that I coached that's playing for the Jets.
Okay.
So, so after the game, his name's Vincent Smith, number 17, plays for the Jets. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, I had my picture taken with him, put it on Facebook. If you're on there, look it up.
Okay.
But, Vincent Smith, really one of these really, really good kids. He was undrafted. This is his second year in the NFL, living in New York, living a dream, and the nicest guy ever.
That's great.
So, really proud of him.
I bet. That's awesome. To be able to see that and be able to see somebody who, under your tutelage, went to that next level and put it all together, especially being undrafted. You got a little chip on your shoulder anyway, and you got a little bit more to prove, and that's really cool to see him make it.
Over the years, I've had 12 guys that have played in the NFL that I've coached, and that's good. And my brother, I'd say, has had as many or maybe more.
Wow.
One year he had at Troy, Ohio. He was a head coach at Troy, Ohio. They weren't all seniors, but on that team, they had won 30 games in a row at a Division I school in Ohio. But he had 13 guys. He just said this the other day. 13 guys that went to Division I colleges off that team.
Wow.
And I'm talking Florida, Michigan, Ohio State. You can name all the big schools, and there's Kentucky. And then some of them guys ended up, of course, going to the pros, too. In fact, most of them did.
Wow,
so,
that's impressive.
Yeah, we both have been very fortunate with the kind of kids we've had, and the kids that have bought into what we were selling, which, not everyone believed in. Most of the kids we've had, even the Morgan Stevensons of the world, bought into what we were doing at Wellston. So, hey, that's a good thing.
That's it. You gotta be able to have your kids buy in, because man, you could have all that good talent.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what happened. Before you were there, even though they had all that good talent, maybe I don't know who the previous coaches were, but maybe they just weren't buying into that philosophy, or maybe he just wasn't presenting it in a way that would work for them. I don't know, but you got to be able to buy into the coach. If you start having those ripples and nitpicking and people talking behind the coach's back, then it's not going to work.
Right.
It's just not.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on either, but I know I don't normally give them a whole lot of choice. Hey, here's what we're doing, and you're buying into it, like it or not. And I always tell them that, hey, just give me like 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go home crying to your mom or dad or your aunt, because they'll call their neighbors, and then all that circulates around, all bad news.
Sure.
Just don't say anything for 6 weeks. Like Judge said, I don't know yet. Just give us a little time to get to know us and get our program in. And I think most of the time they kind of do that.
Right.
They must have done it, because we did actually get something accomplished, I think. So,
yeah,
and they're still living good.
Absolutely, man. To be coaching, to have coached for 50 years, you have to have done something right.
Well, if you do anything that long, of course, we've had our bumps in the roads, I mean, not everyone liked everything you were doing. So, but hey, at Wellston, I was there twice, and both of them were good years. Right. I mean, both stints. In the 73, and I think it was 89 maybe, or whatever, we started there. I was there at Wellston 4 years as the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, we had all those guys were, and I bet most of them are pretty good fathers and husbands and all that stuff,
Right.
So,
right.
So anyway.
Absolutely. I think another player that played, do you remember Dusty Rhodes, who played for you there in Wellston?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, DR was we grew up together. He lived right behind me, and he was, to this day, he's one of my favorite people. I don't talk to him often. He's married with a kid, lives in Columbus, but man, just a stand-up guy.
Let me tell you something. You call him tonight. You got his number?
I do have his number, yeah.
You call him tonight and ask him who went to the game with him 2 weeks ago, the state playoff game.
Really?
Yeah. Him and I met at the state playoff game, sat together with my brother and his grandson was playing, but we were all sitting there together and, cheering for the team and all that. Dusty Rhodes.
How cool. Yep. How cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Call him.
Yeah, he's a super.
Call him tonight.
He's a super dude. He made a point to stop by. I was home this summer before I came back over here, and he made a point. Saw my parents outside, stopped and talked to them, and
yep.
And I got to talk to him for a while. And he's just a solid guy. I really think a lot of him.
I do too. I like him a lot.
Well, let's talk. Do you have any funny stories? Any like things that you really remember about Wellston specifically? Anything you can share that wasn't in the book, or even maybe something that was in the book? Anything that really stands out about, you don't, any certain names, anything that really sticks out to you?
Well, Chris Etchison would be one. He'd always come to school. He wouldn't come to school unless his shirt was pressed. He's always real neat.
Still is.
And he was in the weightlifting. In fact, he has the record in Ohio for bench press. He benched 355 and weighed 152 pounds.
Wow.
I mean, he was 200. I think it's still the record in Ohio for that weight class he was in. But he wouldn't come to school unless the shirt was pressed. Yeah, and I don't know. It's gonna. And Morgan Stevens coached with me in the 7th grade, and I'm watching the game. Always watched every game. He's coaching, good guy, good coach. And during the game, they got a 15-yard penalty for yelling at the official. So after the game, I went down and asked him, I said, were you cussing or no? He said, I just called him BJ. That was the official's name. I don't know what his last name was, BJ. Mm-hmm. I said, he called you, he called a 15-yard penalty on you for calling him BJ? Yeah. So that didn't end good. I, of course, approached the official at that time.
Right.
Stood up for my guy and said, hey, I can't believe it. Well, he said, I said, what would you like for him to call? He said, Mr. Official. I said, forget it. Ain't nothing wrong with getting a 7th grade game calling you BJ.
Right.
So, anyway, let's see what else can I tell you. There's plenty, if I could think about any of them. It was one of our big tackles. What was his name? Big, heavy, one of the best linemen I think I've ever had. I'd see him in the hallways. I can't believe I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, I see him in the hallway. I'd say, hey, this was all day, all along. I mean, summer, winter, whatever. We were trying to build a program. Mm-hmm. And he was a good player. And I said, get down your stairs right in the hallway to get in the 3-point step. Yeah. I can't. Shoot. What's his name? Oh, boy. Anyway, and then them Sturt boys, Troy and Kyle Sturt, you know them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know Kyle better than Troy. We actually kind of grew up together as well. So, yeah, they're pretty good guys.
Yeah, they're real good guys. Well, I would go out to their house, and had a pond in there, and I was always trying to visit or whatever. I mean, we were trying to build a program. I'm out there, and I said, where's Troy? Well, he was down under the water. A Jeep had got in the pond, I didn't drive it. I don't know. Some way he got in the pond down below. He was down there hooking a chain to the Jeep so they could pull it out of the pond. Now, nowadays, you would not see that. You would not see any of this stuff going on. You won't see a coach in high school having a kid, get down the stairs in the hallway.
Exactly.
I mean, them days are over.
Exactly, yep.
Let me give you one more here. Nayland Arthur, who was a kid that football, I think, really helped him a lot. Mm-hmm. He came in one time to a game night, and said, I don't know if you want to publish this or not, but he came in and had the arm all bloody. I said, what happened? He said, I hit some guy down there at that car wash. He said something, we were going to lose tonight or something like that, I said, oh, good. I said, where's he at now? He said, he's laying down there in that car wash. I said, get in the car. So we got in the car and went down there. And, of course, when we got there, there was police cars and ambulance around. So we just kind of drove by and looked like, hey, what's going on? And went back to the field. But, so, I mean, you didn't want to say, hey, to Nayland Arthur, hey, you're going to lose.
Right.
No, he wasn't going to put up with that kind of stuff. So, and the Brad Youngs and the Sturt and all them boys they were pretty much, into all that kind of stuff. So, now there's plenty of stories there. You give me a name, I can tell you a story, I can tell you. And Dusty Rhodes was one, too. He came there with my first day, and he was lining up at fullback. And I said to him, hey, you're a guard. We had 8 fullbacks, no guards. Wow. So I moved him to guard. He reminded me of this the other night at the game. He said I was a poor judge of talent. So, yeah. But anyway, he was a guard. So, yeah, there's a story for all of them.
The one thing I remember about DR in high school, we were playing high school baseball, and he was a good athlete all the way around. He was a good basketball player, good baseball player, good football player. But we were playing baseball. I think it was my freshman year, and I can't remember if it was Nelsonville or Belpre, playing one of those teams, and Dusty was up, and a pitch came inside and hit him right in the arm. Well, most people, they shake it off and just run to first base. Well, DR got hit in the arm, put his bat in his other hand, threw the bat, and flexed at the pitcher. Just flexed his bicep at that pitcher and took off down to first base, man. So funny, because he was a big kid, DR was a good-sized kid.
I hope he listens to this, too, because he was real muscular. He was kind of chubby. But, I don't know why he would flex. I can't even imagine him flexing. So
must have felt good that day. To me, he was big. To me,
felt real good.
Yeah, he's a good guy. That's one of my favorite stories about high school baseball right there. But circle back, we'll talk a little bit about Brad Young, and I know we talked a little bit before, and we know we both unfortunately know that Brad's going through some stuff that hopefully he's not too far gone and he can get out of this. But man, when you think about athletes at Wellston, athletes in the TVC, you don't get much better than Brad. That kid was a beast. He was a workhorse.
Yep.
And I hate to see that life's kind of taken him, to make choices that he probably shouldn't have. I know, he didn't grow up in a him and his father, that relationship was a little bit strained or whatever, and I don't know why people turn and do the things they do and make the choices they make, but unfortunately, he kind of did. He took that wrong path, and talk a little bit about Brad. What do you, if he happens to listen to this, heck, he can reach out to me anytime.
We have a basement here at our house with a room down there, and I wish he'd move into it. I mean, hey, I'd take care of him.
Yeah.
I'd get him fixed there somehow. He's one of the best kids we had. When I went there, he was in the 7th grade. Mm-hmm. And the buildings there were fairly close. The junior high and the high school were close. So I'd walk up during a free period, and I'd hand Brad Young a little note just saying, hey, he was a great kid. He was a great athlete, but he was even a better kid. He had a mother and sister, full support and the best.
Right.
So I'd write him a little note and take it up, walk to them, and if they wouldn't let me in, I'd give the principal, and I'd say, hey, would you give this to Brad Young? So, and then in practice, even in the 7th grade, I mean, he was way better than most of the other 7th graders.
Sure.
So he practiced with us. I mean, he looked like a freshman or even a sophomore, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so he'd go through all the drills with the high school team and fit right in, So that's really an amazing thing right there. But anyway, they were the high university coach come up, and he knew of Brad Young. And darn if he didn't go up to talk to Brad when he was in the 7th grade.
Wow.
He started recruiting Brad in the 7th grade.
Okay.
And then Brad ended up going to a high university. Mm-hmm. So that was, I wish Brad had made all the same choices, but I don't know. I'm hoping, I think about him a lot.
I remember.
And actually talked to him here, how was that? He's in Florida, and I called him here just, his mother gave me a new number or something for him because I'd not had the right number, but I called him here maybe a couple months ago and talked to him on the phone and reminded him how I feel about him and all that. So I'm hoping he'll call me back someday and want me to do something to help him.
I hope so, because he's a good guy. I have a couple really good memories of Brad when we were kids. We were probably 11 or 12, and my dad took us and another friend down to Pizza Hut in Jackson. And even at 11 or 12, Brad was a ladies' man. And our waitress was probably, I don't know, she was probably in her early 20s. And I remember Brad at 12 years old hitting on this girl, leaving this girl his number. And, man, we just we're like, what? Dude, I'm so shy. I'm 37, and I can't talk to girls now. He's 12 years old, and he's you know what I mean? I'm like, man, this dude's crazy. And then we were in high school, and it was me and Brad and two girls that were with us at the time, and we were driving around, and it was snowy outside. And so we're going to go out. We're going to do donuts and in the streets and do all this stuff. And I remember coming up Michigan Avenue. We were on South Michigan, really, really far down, and we're driving up, and Brad's like, I'm going to hit it really hard. I'm going to do a donut here. He does a donut out in front of these people's yard, but he accidentally hit the gas, and we went up into their front yard. And just so happens, their window was open. Their curtains were open. They were sitting there eating dinner, and they looked like directly. We all lock eyes, and Brad just looks at him with that sheepish smile that he has, and he just starts waving. He just waves at him, backs up, and we take off. Like, it was just one of the funniest scenes. You know, he had that little crooked tooth. He would smile and keep on the outside of his lip, and he's a good kid, and I hope that
he still is. He's a good. I love him, loved him then, and still love him. I just hope everything's going good.
Me too. I hope he can turn it around. And if he is listening, reach out to Coach Blackstone. Reach out to myself, man. We'll talk to you. You know, I don't know there's much I can do, but sometimes you just need somebody new to talk to or vent to or whatever. But I'd love to see him get straightened up. That's something that's affecting, you know, a lot of small town USA. You're seeing a lot of that. I have a cousin who's going through some stuff herself, and it's like you gotta get better. You gotta get yourself right. You know, stop blaming people. Yep. It's nobody else's fault. It's your own choice making. Just take ownership. Say, hey, I gotta get better, and I gotta do this. You got people there that care for you, man.
I've seen it before. I've seen it all over the place.
Absolutely.
Wellston, Lancaster, every place I've been, there's been issues.
Absolutely. So, well, Coach, what's a day like for you now? Now that you're done coaching, you know, I know you're there with the grandkids and things like that quite often. But what do you do now for fun?
Well, fun. I don't know. What everything's fun to me right now.
Well, good.
Always has been really. Hey, every job I've had has been fun. I've never considered going to work as being work.
Right. That's good.
Going to see the kids and work out and all those things. That's all. It's all been fun. So, but yeah, I still go down. We have a place here called the Mac. Mm-hmm. So 5 o'clock, I'm down there every day, and hour and a half. It's not all work now, but hey, a little visiting with different people. But
sure.
It's an hour and a half pretty much every day, and then let's see, if I'm trying to sub-teach some too, so I substitute teach, which you don't teach. You're just, you know, keep an order in the classroom now. Their own computers and all that. So
right.
I'm not doing any teaching, but they call it substitute teaching. I try to get 2 days a week in there to get out of the house. Otherwise, I'm watching, you know, Let's Make a Deal and Bonanza and Gunsmoke, you know.
There you go.
And then, of course, yeah, we have one grandchild there still only going half a day. Mm-hmm. So we have him in the afternoons, 3 days a week. So that's it. And then in the evenings, you know, hey, I don't know how. Of course, during football season, I was coaching yet this year. This is you know, I coached at an old high school out here, so I was still busy.
Oh, okay.
Not completely retired, just, you know, helping a neighbor friend who's the head coach. So, but next year I think I won't be coaching at any, so I don't know what I'll be doing. There's, you know, there's a little bit. Brother has 2 grandsons. One's in college, one's in high school playing football. So I keep track of them. Then, like, the guy playing for the Jets, and we got another guy playing for the Patriots, and another guy. I've got 3 guys playing. So if they're in Cincinnati, we go to their games. Now, Barry's son-in-law is the wide receiver coach for the Chicago Bears. Mm-hmm. So we go to you know, their games or watch their games and all that. We're Bear fans for sure.
Sure.
So that's staying fairly busy, I'd say.
Yeah, it sounds like you got enough to keep you a full plate at all times.
Uh-huh.
Got to make time for Bonanza though. That was my dad's show, and I grew up on Bonanza. So Hoss and Little Joe and Adam and Ben, and those were I'm familiar with all those guys as well. I'm not sure how many people my age would that even knows what Bonanza is, but
right, not very many. None of our kids, you know, if I mentioned even Bob Hope or Woody Hayes or any name like that to a kid nowadays, they've never heard of him.
But you know what's funny now? They can just pull out that phone and type that name in, and man, they got the whole world at their fingertips.
Yeah, well, I tell them, so now we'll look up Bob Hope. Oh, yeah, they heard of him, you know, but it's not one of their people they remember too well. So,
right.
Yes, things are way different, but yet a lot of things are still the same. The kids are still the same, really. Mm-hmm. I coached this year, good kids. If someone would go to the school I was at this year, it's Fayetteville, but hey, if some young coach would go in there, thinking about myself, go in there, you know, they could build a program there, make some people mad for a while, but hey, could build a program, change some kids' lives, and be friends forever.
Very cool. Very cool. We were talking a little bit about the technology and how things have changed. I went and kind of was at one of the practices 2 or 3 years ago for the baseball team, and I remember a kid was going out to throw a bullpen session, and he had his cell phone in his back pocket, like during the bullpen session. I'm like, well, were you expecting a call from an agent? Like, why do you have your phone? Why do you have your phone right now? Isn't it crazy how things change with that, and they think they have to have their phones or their iPads, or it's always got to be on them because they're going to miss something. It's like, man, put those things down and go out and learn the game a little bit more. Respect the game a little bit more.
Here goes hold on them phones. Hey, listen, the NFL, they have 10-minute breaks. Like you have, if you're working McDonald's, you get a break so often. Well, they have breaks in the NFL, and during that break, they get on their phones. And of course, they're all business people too, so they're checking the stock market or whatever.
Sure.
But they, during the film sessions and meeting sessions, and that way they don't. Otherwise, it'd be on their phones, when you're trying to teach them something about the, scouting report or anything. So you have to give them 10-minute breaks every 40 minutes.
Right. Wow. That's.
Yeah, you believe that?
Definitely a different time, huh?
But in your baseball dealing too, they've got these machines now. They test their arm motion and speed of the baseball, not just in the games, but every pitch they throw, and curve speed, and the technology. In golf too, they've got all this technology, their swings and all that stuff.
Oh, it's
all over. Football, of course, I know more about that, but hey. You got these big old screens now. You can show them. Hey, it used to be in our day. Hey, if we had a 19-inch TV set and poor film, and you say, hey, you stepped the wrong foot. Well, they could almost convince you they didn't, because you couldn't really see their foot anyway.
Right.
Now you can zero in, and they can't argue about it. Hey, no, you took the wrong step.
Right. Having iPads on the sidelines, you can get that immediate feedback.
Right.
And it's crazy to see that. This like baseball, they're talking about spin rates. So this guy's curveball has a spin rate of this compared to this guy's curveball.
Right.
It's like, my goodness, it's getting to a point of almost too much. Like, to me.
I think so. Yeah. I kind of liked it better when I was busy doing it.
Right, just a simpler time.
Right. So. Hey, I appreciate you calling me up, and hopefully this won't be the last call.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have to be a business. Yeah.
I feel a little more comfortable.
No, you should. Yeah, you should. You should have 50 years ago, or 30 years ago, whatever it was. Hey, we would have loved to have you on our team. I can tell you, because all your friends were there.
They were.
And they were all there. So hey. You keep me posted on what's going on.
I sure
and
will.
All this stuff, and feel free to call me at any time.
I sure will. I appreciate you doing this. I'm glad we got together. I knew when I first started this podcast, I was like, man, I have to get Coach Blackstone on, because everybody from Wellston really thinks a lot of you, and I was like, man, I got to get him on at some point. And then when I saw that you came out with the book with your brother, I was like, I got to order this. I'm just going to go ahead and order it. I'm going to read it, and then hopefully he'll agree to do the interview with me. And, man, it was a really good book. Yeah. It's a really good read. I definitely recommend it. The Blackstone Brothers, The Life and Legacy of Two Coaches. Yeah. Just super good book. Check it out at Amazon. Hopefully that does well for you. Anything you'd like to say to former players or anything like that before we close up shop here?
I think they know where I'm at. They know how I feel. My feelings are never going to change from the day I met them to today.
Mm-hmm.
I liked them. They didn't always like me and like everything I said, but I always liked them. So, and I had one thing I always said. They'd argue. In my day, I didn't care if they argued back. I kind of enjoyed that, really.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the kids that would kind of stand up for themselves and all that. So, but I always told them, I'm going to get the last word.
Right. I'll act like.
How many arguments I won, but I never lost one. Not with a player.
I'll make it seem.
Never lost one argument.
Right. You make it seem like they have a say in it, but they really don't. Right.
No. That's good. Yeah. Good for you. Hey, keep in touch.
All right, Coach. I appreciate it, and I'll let you know when I post this. That way, you can kind of get on there and you can listen back to it. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you.
All right, Coach. Thanks a lot for doing the interview with me, buddy. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you.
Yes.
See ya.
All right, guys, there you have it. That was my interview with Coach Larry Blackstone. I want to thank the coach for taking a little bit of time out of his day to sit down and talk to me a little bit for the podcast. I was excited when he agreed to do it, but a little nervous as well because, not really knowing the coach, I wasn't sure exactly, what all we would talk about, if we'd have enough to fill up an hour and a half. But a couple minutes in, he set me at ease, and it's just like talking to an old friend. So I can definitely understand why former players hold Coach in such high regard. Again, guys, thanks for the support so far. I've already recorded 2 more podcasts that I'll be editing here pretty soon. I will post on Facebook in the coming weeks as to who those guys are. I think you guys will like them. But I hope you enjoyed this one. I know a lot of former players were excited to hear whenever I announced that Coach was going to be on the show. So, again, guys, send me some feedback if you guys like it. Send me some feedback if you guys hate it. Let me know what you guys think. And I thank you, as always, for taking the time to listen to Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast.